Talking a little Auburn defense here on the podcast this morning. Derrick Brown had the opportunity to address the media yesterday at SEC Media Days. Very impressed with his interview and some of the things he had to say regarding the Auburn program and why he decided to come back. For those of you who don't know, Derrick Brown is projected to be an All-American defensive lineman on a team this year defensively that should have one of the better defensive lines in the country. It's hard to gauge, who the best is, but definitely dominant should describe this particular defensive line as you look across the board with Nick Coe, Marlon Davidson, and Derrick Brown. Also Big Cat Bryant and a couple of other guys in that mix. You're talking one of the more talented and more fierce defensive lines in the country. Derrick Brown got on the podium yesterday in Hoover, Alabama, talking about his reasoning for coming back to Auburn. He discussed it with his parents and, wanted to set an example for his son, moving forward and getting that college degree. Because he felt like, hey, if I graduate, if I go on to the NFL, chances are it'll be a little bit more difficult to get that degree later on. Let's go ahead and get it out of the way. And also, he felt like, this Auburn team could be special, because when you have NFL aspirations and have a viable opportunity to go to the NFL, you're not necessarily coming back to Auburn to be involved with anything shaky. And that's why he said, hey, I want to come back. I think we're on something here and have a potential chance to win a national championship or SEC championship. Basically, having a chance to do some really, really big things this year for the Auburn Tigers. Also, he talked about the fans and how fans really, really don't know what these players go through as they look at social media and as they make these judgments. I think it's easy. Like even for a guy like me to sit behind, a microphone and talk about what these guys are doing and how good they play. But no one ever makes mention about the rigorous work that it takes to be a college football player. As a matter of fact, I know a little bit of it, and I knew that I couldn't do it. I actually walked on at a FCS college in Alabama, and 2 weeks, I couldn't do it. It's too much work, too many workouts, too much time management. I wasn't accustomed to having to account for my time and then still balance schoolwork. So 2 weeks in, I was like, hey, it's not worth it. No, can't do it. So I have more than just a lot of respect for college football players and the work that they have to do just to stay on the team, let alone have elite college football careers. Derrick Brown is definitely set to be, at worst, first team All-SEC this year. It looks like he's chiseled up a little bit. He doesn't look like the big guy, the overly big guy that he was last year. He looks a lot more athletic. As a matter of fact, I saw on one media outlet where he's a 6'4", 275 pounds. So if that's the case, he's lost about 20 pounds. So that will make him a lot more agile. We saw shades of this in the spring game as Derrick Brown, I think it was either the second or third series, just literally took over the defense on his way to the A-Day defensive player of the game. Looking forward to seeing what Derrick Brown has to offer this coming season. Auburn definitely has a chance, as Gus Malzahn talked about on his podium stop, that Auburn, just like anyone else in the SEC, has a chance to get it done this year. And I think, when you look at Auburn top to bottom, they definitely have the roster to compete. They definitely have the roster to remain in games and have opportunities to win some of the games that I would think a lot of media outlets don't expect them to win. That's just the bottom line. I mean, people are still kind of looking at Auburn from the same perspective as, say, they were last year. I think if you look at Auburn on film, say, from last year, you might be misleading yourself because this is not that same type of team. I think this team is going to be a lot more athletic. Gus Malzahn made mention that this game, the biggest thing in the SEC, when you compete in this league or when you compete in Power 5 football, period, you can't discount experience. And that's something that Auburn does bring to the table is big game experience between Derrick Brown, Jeremiah Denson. Smoke Monday hasn't had that opportunity yet as he's a freshman. He had limited playing time last year. But like I said, Jeremiah Denson for sure. Daniel Thomas. All of those guys have big game, neutral site game experience. So they'll be able to provide that leadership to not let the moment get too big for the new players. And that's very important when you talk about a game like Oregon or on the road for the first time in the SEC playing against Texas A&M, and you know that crowd is going to be fired up. You know, what if by chance Texas A&M can upset Clemson? You're talking about a stadium that's going to be out of control. The 12th man is going to be out of control down in College Station. It's going to be very important for that senior leadership to calm everybody down, to really, really look at what's genuinely ahead and not let the moment get too big to where, you know, crucial mistakes are made. Like, you know, offensive penalties, pass interference, you know, got a new quarterback, got to make sure you guard yourself away from turnovers. All of those things are going to be very important, and I think the leadership factor for the Auburn Tigers is definitely going to be key going into the 2019 season. Now, the question was also asked, you know, why do you like well, actually, it was a question in the comment section. And, you know, the question was asked, well, who do you like, Joey Gatewood to start, Joey Gatewood or Bo Nix? Well, I actually like both of them. But if I had a choice, I would say Joey Gatewood, and here is why. Joey Gatewood represents a potential answer to a lot of the little things that has hurt Auburn, especially last season. Auburn was ranked pretty low in third down conversions. Auburn was ranked pretty low in red zone scoring. And a lot of plays last year that could have kept drives going were actually third and shorts. But what would happen is Auburn would pull these, wildcat packages and different things, gimmicky type things to make first downs, and because they didn't have the physicality to do it. Number one, the offensive line was inexperienced and plays got busted up. But number two, you didn't have that quarterback with that physical presence to help, create some imbalance or help create some respect, so to speak, to where you have to account for him. So that opens up other things for, say, Boobie Whitlow, and kind of like how Trey Mason was with Nick Marshall. I'm not saying Trey Mason was not a good running back, but I guarantee you, you tack on about 300 or 400 more of Trey Mason's yards because of the mismatches that were caused because of the fact that you had to respect Nick Marshall's running ability. So I think given what Auburn is trying to improve on, which is third down efficiency, which is, red zone scoring, having more options play calling wise in the red zone, I think Joey Gatewood at the onset gives you options to help in that matter. So that's why I would choose a guy like him, because I like his potential in the trenches a little bit more than I do Bo Nix, because you got the skilled players around to where once the run pass option gets going, the offense can be very deadly. But to add that physical running presence from the quarterback, Bo Nix can run, but I just don't think he's going to be as physically imposing as Joey Gatewood would be. So that's the reason why I like Joey Gatewood starting the season off, is because he gives Auburn the opportunity to have more options in improving on the areas of third down conversions and also taking advantage of more red zone opportunities. And when you start talking about converting third downs, that's where your time of possession comes in. And that's something that Auburn also was very, very lacking in last year. Once again, it's Kennard Vernon Stewart here on the podcast this morning, talking a little Auburn football as always, War Eagle.